Brought to you by...
He thrusts his fists against the posts and still insists he sees the ghosts. Hello friends, welcome back to ETF, where we are being brought back to the quiet town of Derry, Maine, where 27 years after director Tommy Lee Wallace's original adaptation of Stephen King's prolific work, Andres Muschietti drudged back into the sewer system to reawaken it. Pushing forward the original narrative from the 50s to the 80s, this new look at the tale brings us back onto the streets of Derry, as the start of a disturbing rash of children's disappearances begins to take shape. This time around, sticking closely to their younger lives, we follow the group dubbed the Losers Club, as they face their worst nightmare, the ancient, shape-shifting evil that emerges from the depths of the sewers beneath Derry every 27 years to prey on the fears and the flesh of children. Banding together over the course of one terrifying summer, the Frans must overcome what they fear most, to do battle with the murderous, bloodthirsty clown known as Pennywise. I'll admit, at first it was hard to take the idea of a film so beloved to me getting a reimagining, and it was harder still to step into that theater with fresh eyes and see this one as its own piece of art. But as it turned out, that is exactly what this film is. Aside from the very core concept, this film is vastly different than the original 1990 version. Perhaps this is because of the brazen differences that the original had from the source material, or just a product of the changes the industry has gone through over the years since. This adaptation guides us much closer to the original text, including huge set pieces like the house on Neibolt Street, which is constructed much the way described by King in the book, a decrepit Victorian shell of its former glory, left rotting for reasons that are never and can never be explained, while the town surrounding is upkept, almost as if the house is a black spot that is chosen to be ignored, only visible now to those naive or less developed. I personally view this design to reflect the way the kids view the abandoned property. If this were much closer to reality, I would doubt that it would look the same way. It is depicted more theatrically to give the impression of a place where the monster dwells. In fact, you could look at a lot of what we see throughout this film through the same lens. Another prime example would be the way in which the adults of the film act towards the kids. Many of them emanate a cruel or dismissive nature, while others seem overly ominous and openly vile. It seems that there was a sense that once you are beyond the age of believing in such things as evil clowns, it becomes possible for the influence of Pennywise to take hold, blinding you to the truth and corrupting your very core being, which could possibly be the cause of the abusive natures of Alvin Marsh and Sheriff Bowers, or even the slightly pedophilic vibe of Mr. Keene, though I like that this is not an exclusive outcome of its influence. As we see in other areas of the film, Mrs. Kasprak manifests a paranoid terror for her son, sheltering him and manipulating his life with conjured diseases, worry, and doubt. It's as if she is trying to protect him from what, somewhere in the recesses of her mind, she knows is lurking below the town. While on the outskirts of town, we have the Hanlons, who seem to be the only adults in the film that don't emit an eerie or ominous tone in any real way. Mike's father, or grandfather, uncle, not sure what he was, promotes a stern and gruff tone that stands to help push Mike into stepping up and becoming an adult, possibly in a hope that rapidly increasing his maturity will make him less of a target for the monster's clown. My theory for this is due to their location in the town. The Hanlons live on the outskirts and homeschool Mike, possibly as another form of protection, placing themselves further outside of the radius of Pennywise's field of influence. Therefore, they are less affected by it. Taking this approach to the film gave Machete a freedom to enhance the level of dread that emanates from the pages of the original novel. It brings the true horrors of the concept back to Lovecraftian levels. After having been left dormant in the 90s miniseries, the fact that he chose to make its influence so prominent places the Losers Club up against odds that far outweigh them, which makes for a much more compelling narrative, and adds an element of terror beyond comprehension. It gives the feeling of its grasp slowly tightening around the losers, backing them into a corner, while it gets closer and closer to feasting on them. Machete chose to not only deliver us a closer adaptation to the source material, but to enhance each aspect of the story, and even inject some of his own elements of fear, to better craft a nightmare in which we could not have been prepared for. This can be seen most prominently through Bill Skarsgård's depiction of the infamous clown Pennywise. In this iteration, he delivers up a far more energetic, starved beast, staring into his prey with piercing eyes, a guttural, hungry growl, and drooling lips that quiver with anticipation of fresh, fearful flesh. A far cry from the laughable levity of Tim Curry's now legendary portrayal. This is not the type of clown that could lure in unsuspecting children. He's a horrifying, carnivorous nightmare whose presence is akin to being stalked by a rabid dog or a starved jungle cat. It has become wildly accepted that, for most people, clowns are creepy, so they chose to fully embrace it here and apply it directly to his character. The visual style of this film undoubtedly grounds it in the framework of today's industry, taking an approach that is reminiscent to most of the popular horror films we see nowadays, such as the Conjuring series, with a higher degree of dynamic camera work, tightly interwoven CGI enhancements that allow for a more grandiose and spectacular level of nightmarish imagery, and a mostly washed out color palette that complements its choice to play up the more prominent swatches of vibrant red. Since this time we are tackling this tale in the form of a film, we are treated to a more well-paced narrative that does a masterful job of balancing its building of dread with a detailed immersion into this fictitious town, while strongly developing each of our central and iconic characters. Which brings us to the performances. I felt that each of these kids delivered the core traits of their characters perfectly. For me, I felt that Finn Wolfhard could have been reined back a little, but at the same time, I do like the angle of making him a quippy motor mouth. It helps him stand out a bit more from the rest of the group, who kind of come off as more reserved and timid. One of the big changes here was the choice to shift the timeline from the 50s to the 80s, which alone changes our characters significantly, from straight-laced kids to angsty preteens. Henry Bowers is the prime example, shifting him from a leather-bound greaser to a mullet-laden hick. While I know it is mostly justified as being done to place Chapter 2 in the modern day and better relate it to today's audiences, I can't help but feel that the opportunity to cash in on the recent 80s nostalgia burst didn't hurt matters. Personally, when compared to the onslaught of recent adaptations, both in and out of King's Mythos, I absolutely love this film. It paints a visual spectacle of the Lovecraftian nightmare that I have always seen it to be, and that King himself has always claimed it to be. With the original miniseries falling into my top top 10 for so long, it's hard to not love the risks that they were willing to take to help bring a more accurate representation of the source material to life. I have to give It Chapter 1 an A+. Guys, if you are a fan of Stephen King, or even the original miniseries, and for some reason you haven't given into the hype train and watched this one yet, I definitely recommend giving it a shot. More than once if you can. This is a film that warrants deeper exploration. For each time, you will notice more well-hidden specifics, homages to the original series, and details that hint towards the larger macroverse of King's collected works. If you've had a chance to see this flick, hey friends, I just wanted to take a moment and apologize for my voice this week. I've been kind of sick lately, so I apologize if I sound kind of weird in these last two videos. I just really wanted to get these out there before going to see It Chapter 2 this weekend, which I will be going to see come hell or high water. I'm hoping to be feeling better in a few days or so hopefully I can get back to work and bring you guys some more content. I hope you guys enjoyed these videos despite my voice, and I hope you guys have been enjoying the channel so far. I'd love to hear what you guys think down in the comments, or feel free to hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. As always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you're enjoying the channel, and I'll hopefully catch you all next time. Thanks for watching.